Peace to you and yours. It's your brother Red Pill representing Know the Ledge. I am here with BABATV, Fire Every Time, and I'm honored to introduce our guest for the day, my good brother Chakabars. Please introduce yourself.
Respect to all the people in Harlem. Being here is like being in Ghana almost. Everybody here is melanated. It's beautiful to be here.
No doubt. You should have been here about 10 years ago before they put the milk in the coffee. Before we go any further though, I want you to introduce yourself to the people in case there's people out there who are not familiar with you and your movement and what it is that you do.
Up with the birds from the east and clean up my scenes. While the birds sing, I'm gonna walk up to the top of the rock of sacrifice. Cause I know now, life and no dice. Yes, I know now, life is a sacrifice. And I know now, life is a sacrifice.
Really, all it is that I'm doing is trying to use the set of privileges that I've been afforded. Like I speak English. That is a privilege based on the colonization that they did, so you can get to African people all around the world. You know, if you look at what goes on with how people are treated around the world, I'm light-skinned, right? So I can speak in places where some people will listen to me where they wouldn't if I was darker skinned. I use Instagram to generate money through crowdfunding. I use that crowdfunding to build.
Heavy on the gram.
I use that crowdfunding to build infrastructural development in Africa. So one of the most recent things that we did was we took a lot of water pumps, irrigation systems and solar panels to an area in Somalia that needed that so that they could make sure that they are growing their own food and they aren't reliant on the government. If you are, outside government should I say, if you are solely reliant on your government to feed yourself, then you're not free. And so we did that, and there's a lot of people now who don't need aid anymore, and that's ultimately what we need. We don't need people having aid. Africa doesn't need aid. It won't develop off aid. It needs trade. So that's what I'm trying to do in different African countries.
Beautiful, beautiful. Where do you originate from? I'm picking up a UK accent.
Yeah, so I was born in Barbados,
okay.
And my family are predominantly Jamaican, but I was raised in the UK. But the last few years I've just been traveling in Africa. I haven't been really in the UK. I've been in the UK this year for like 7 days. So I don't really like, personally, I don't really like countries that are run by European governments because there's no spirituality in those governments. I like to be in African countries, even if there is corruption there, at least I'm going to catch a vibe, you know?
Facts. All right. I want you to talk to the people about what it is that you've been doing in Harlem. I know that there was a big event yesterday. You have some other events that are coming up. We talked about it. Currently, you're doing Black Panther screenings.
Yes.
And when I heard that, I was like, okay, Disney done cut the check, Marvel and whatnot, got Chaka out here doing this thing. That's what's up. But when I brought that to your attention, you was like, nah, that's not what we're doing. What we're doing is we're taking advantage of the wave, or we're taking advantage of this small window that's open with the Black Panther movie, and we're using that as a teaching opportunity. So can you build further on that, please?
Yeah, it's like I said to you over there, sometimes you've got to mix in the medicine with the food, and there's a big hype that's come around this movie. And who is the movie for financially? How is it benefiting the areas, the cultures that this movie comes from? Well, as far as I can see, it's not. I think they said they'd give $1 million to some
Off of a billion.
Yeah, off of $1 billion, right?
Yeah.
So if we, and all of the actors, the main actors didn't make any more than $1 million or $2 million, right? Yeah. So I thought, well, how do we use this as an educational tool to get all of the children children who are hyped for this obvious, powerful representation.
Yes.
When I watched the movie and I was like, you know, they put a European in the movie basically just to emasculate him for the whole movie.
Facts.
But there's not even any light-skinned people in the movie, and at no point did I think there needs to be light-skinned people, because it's
Facts.
supposed to be Africa, a non-colonized nation, etc. So what we've been doing is using it to establish a Pan-African educational exchange program, where we did the first 2 showings in Jamaica for a school that we're working at called the Haile Selassie High School. So we're refurbishing this school, a school that was donated by His Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie in 1966. It was built in 1969 and now it's run down. So we took the school kids, a lot of them never been to the cinema, to go see this representation, and then as we're developing the school, we want them to think outside of their conditioning. So we want them to think, we want to imagine our school as if it was Wakanda, or as if it was Ethiopia, as if it wasn't colonized, and that's how they're going to go forward and learn, because all of the time we're always telling children, you know, what they can be, but we're not showing them how to get there. And we're not opening their minds to let them know that actually you develop your future. You know, when we were pioneering civilization as African people on the earth and indigenous people on the earth thousands and thousands of years ago, we weren't always looking at what Europeans was doing. Now we don't need to look at what Europeans are doing. So we did Jamaica, then we did London, then we did Ghana yesterday.
No doubt. Salute.
Yesterday we did Harlem. In a few days we're going to do Miami, and then we're going to do LA. And all of these children are going to be part of an educational exchange program where they will be basically writing letters and creating relationships, so that when they leave school or they leave college or whatever, they have friends in Ghana, they have friends in Jamaica, they have friends in London, they have friends in Harlem, etc.
Networking.
Exactly, because as I said, we need trade. We don't need aid. And how do we create trade? A lot of it starts with exactly. So I'm using the movie to basically build bridges between people of the diaspora. The movie itself is just a symbol, just like Barack Obama being in office was a symbol, but means nothing else. Like, the whole area didn't start getting fixed up as soon as Barack got in. And, you know, African representation in film isn't going to change all of a sudden as soon as this movie Black Panther comes out. Essentially what Marvel have done is very, very smart. The brother Immortal Technique was saying yesterday, is they've created a massive audience that's going to go watch this Infinity War, and they're going to watch. Exactly. So now they have a whole audience that they wouldn't necessarily have.
Facts.
So but then, you know, why should it benefit the black diaspora? Why should it benefit African people? They're, you know, a European led organization, and if you look to the history of Hollywood, the first movie in Hollywood was called A Birth of a Nation, which was a KKK propaganda film.
Yes, it was.
So it's like, are we going to really try and rely on Hollywood for our liberation? No, we have to use these tools to be able to liberate ourselves, you know?
Dope. For the brothers and sisters who never travel across seas to the continent, can you let them know what awaits them? Some of the preconceived notions that they may have that have kept them stagnated. You know, some people think that they can't take a shower if they go to Africa, or there will be no clean water, or the mosquitoes will kill them and whatnot. So can you just, you know, give them a little bit of rundown, being that you know, this is basically your second home?
The image of Africa and the fears of Africans weren't created by Africans, right? They were created by European media establishments, European governments. At the same time, I was in the Congo a few years ago, and I've been since, but when I first got there, I was in the Congo and I was going down the Congo River. We were looking to buy land for an orphanage for the children that we look after. And all I could see on the banks of this river was big ass houses. And I was asking the guy on the boat, whose are these houses? And they said Europeans, Chinese. And so it's very interesting, Indians. It's very interesting how many different ethnic groups will create an image of Africa that Africans actually internalize and believe, because that's the only way of us being able to see Africa without having a passport, without having the leisure to travel. And it's very interesting that these same people will raise their families there, live out their full lives there, but then tell everybody else that Africa's scary. Like, Africa was never homogenous. You know, you're not going to get welcomed by everybody with open arms. If you're gonna go to Africa and be a douche, then you're going to be a douche, and everybody will see you as that. If you're going to go to Africa and build with the people, then people will see you as that, and you will be welcomed with open arms. And so, depends on where you go. It's a it's a massive continent with 54 countries and over 2,000 languages, and you're going to get a different experience of the human experience wherever you go. I've been personally to Egypt, Ghana, Ethiopia, Djibouti, Somalia, Kenya, Congo, and Uganda, and a couple other places that I can't remember right now. And in every different place there was a different type of experience. But if you are of melanin, go to Central or West or East Africa. Start out, if I was you, if you're from the West or you live in the West, go to West Africa, because or Nigeria, go to Ghana. That's where you're most likely to see yourself and your culture, and there are many things that need to be done. There are many things that are being done. There are many things that have been done, and now it's for you to find out where you fit into that piece of everything. Because a lot of the problem that people have is we have a fear that wasn't created by us, and so we allow that to manifest and make us procrastinate, causes inaction. We never go to Africa. But then you have, for instance, in the Rastafari community, as I say, in the Rastafarian community, you have many Rastas who are like, and I was raised Rasta, so I know, motherland, Africa, we must go, but they never go. Because
a huge Rasta movement through the continent.
The Rastas are everywhere across Africa, right? But the problem is a lot of Rastas in the West, they use it as almost as a Zion, motherland, promised lands, and it almost becomes in itself a kind of a spiritual place rather than a physical place that they can go. And they can go, they need to go, and need to realize that, everything isn't great, but also they realize that everything is great. Like, there's different experiences wherever you go, but it's about having the courage to go back to where you originated from and experience it, and then tell people, and then bring people. Don't just go there and I traveled Africa and then come back. Go and show people how to get there and show them experiences. We have a smartphone now, you can make your own video blogs. Yeah, exactly.
You do that a lot on your Instagram. One of the reasons why people who are walking by are stopping and shouting you out. You're very heavy on social media. I'm actually moving through the continent with you on your phone. You'll wake up, you show us what you're eating for breakfast, you show us the waterfalls, you show us the babies, you show us the ladies sometimes. You know what I mean? You show us. Y'all ready for your piece? What part of the continent y'all from? Senegal. We were just talking about that. Yes. Salute. You know what I mean? Have you been on 116th yet, Little Africa? No. Have you traveled over there? You will fall in love. I think we're gonna go over there when we wrap this up. I just wanted to say thank you for bringing people, to Africa through your social media and whatnot. If there was some people out there who wanted to be a part of this journey, who wanted to experience the continent, and they wanted, to be a part of your social enterprise and whatnot, is there a way that they can, holler at you or join? Is there an organization they could join?
So the t-shirt that I'm wearing is called I Heart Africa. This is my foundation. We just started it in January. We've been trying to start it for 16 months, which has been annoying, but we started it. And we are slowly building our team, and we are establishing ourselves. So we're opening an office in Congo this year, and we are slowly establishing ourselves. Respect, sister. The things have to be organic, I'm not trying to rush to do it. Though this idea of Wakanda that everybody has, which I believe is actually an indigenous American term and not actually an African, it's definitely not a place in Africa anyway. But Wakanda, if you look on a map, as the comic book says, is basically Congo. The vibranium is basically coltan, and the Congo itself is basically Wakanda. And what we have now is we have all of these people now with this idea of how do we build this utopia in Africa. Well, it starts out with friendships, it starts out with traveling. I will be inviting people in time to come down and be part of my organization and volunteer, etc. But what I'm not going to do is rush to get people to come there and maybe make a mistake and invite somebody who's there for the wrong reasons or whatever. It needs to be for the right reasons.
Over there.
Well, or just look, if you look at what's been going on with the United Nations and all of the pedophiles that they bring to Haiti, and all of these places like
NGOs.
yeah, exactly. I don't want to try and bring that type of energy anywhere near the children because the children are vulnerable and they need to be protected. And one thing we can't do is go over there with this almost neo-colonial white savior or black savior complex that we're going to roll up and everything's going to be fine. It's not. You need to be humble. You need to be able to learn. And as you grow and you learn, you'll be able to find out how you fit into this piece of the human puzzle, you know?
Dope. One more question. There were talks about the African Union voting on opening up Africa for free trade. I believe it was 54 countries that agreed to the vote. Nigeria and I think it was Libya were the only holdouts. I might be wrong about Libya, but Nigeria was definitely one. Did you hear about that? And if you did, is that a win-win for brothers and sisters that are here who want to participate in trade, who want to participate in rebuilding or filling the void of things that need to be filled on the continent?
Whenever I hear anything said by the African Union, I always take it with a pinch of salt, because I've seen what the African Union do on the continent, and the African Union are basically I would say the African Union are the children of the UN.
The UN. Okay.
And yeah, exactly. And because I've seen what they actually physically do, when I hear what they say, I'm not like, yes, the African Union have said it. Because a lot of the people, when you travel in the countries, they don't have any faith in either organizations because of what they've done historically. And because how they get their money is based on destabilization. If African countries weren't destabilized, there'd be no need for the UN in Africa. There'd be no need for the AU in Africa. I mean, the original, I think it was called the OAU, was the original, and that was something different to what it is now. Just like, you know, Black Lives Matter comes from the, yeah, exactly. Black Lives Matter comes from BLM, comes from Black Liberation Movement, which was a whole economic liberation movement. And so I believe that Africa has been open for free trade for the last, since colonization started. That's what they basically made it, was free trade. So no European countries, Chinese companies, nobody's paying taxes there, right? That's free. Yeah. I think that what Africans need to do is get back to practicing group economics and making sure that, you know, why is it that Africans in the West, many Afro-Caribbeans, Afro-Latina, Caribbean people are scared, or African Americans are scared to go to Africa, but the Chinese aren't, the Europeans aren't, the Indians aren't. So you should be putting your money together here, going over there and buying land, because you can get an acre of land in Congo for about 10,000 US. You definitely can't get an acre of anything out here for, you know, less than 100,000, 200,000, a million or whatever. So I think now is the time where we can rapidly communicate anywhere in the world with anybody instantly. And we need to start pooling those resources and using them, because there was more Pan-African movement and connection in the 19th century than there is now. And you know, I'm fed up with you know, every single time acting like we're reinventing the wheel when these things have been done by Marcus Garvey. They've been done, you know, by many different you know, it wasn't just Sankara, it wasn't just Lumumba, it wasn't just Nkrumah, it was, you know, Garvey all the way through to Malcolm X. Everybody was trying to do this. It's just we get scared because, you know, we get scared because we're scared of being assassinated. But life is a cycle, and you're not going to be here in this form forever. So just stand in your power and live correct, you know.
Facts. Like, death is inevitable. You rather die on your feet than on your knees. You rather die, or you rather make transition building a nation than destroying one. For the brothers and sisters who are out here dying in a trap house, in the bandos, or in some gutter in Ghettosville, USA, right? Chasing nickel sales. So I'd rather die building, or I'd rather make transition building than destroying. That's just me. Before we leave, you brought up the Congo. It would be remissive of me if I didn't ask you, from somebody who's been in the Congo please give us a rundown of the Congo and the conflict in the Congo. The way that we receive the information in the news, it's like a bloodbath. It's like a constant war, the civil war. Millions upon millions of people dead over there. You know, it's always some kind of negative stories coming out of the Congo, and you know, we know that that's the cradle of civilization, and we know it's so mineral rich. The people are rich. You know what I'm talking about? Can you just, the culture is rich. Can you just give us a brief synopsis of life in the Congo?
The Congo is the richest country on earth, hands down. It's the second largest country in Africa, and because of that, it's destabilized by all countries on earth, and until African countries reclaim back Congo for Africa, Africans will never be rich, because if you look at what makes a country a superpower, is nuclear weapons, and 80% of the uranium in the world comes from Congo. It's technology now. Most of the coltan that goes in our phones, in our microphones, in our cameras, comes from the Congo. If you look at the minerals that are used for the aerospace industry, for the military industry, for the automotive industry, they all come from Congo. It's got the second largest rainforest on earth. It is a paradise on earth. I've never been anywhere more beautiful on earth than the Congo.
Wow.
But it's kept destabilized because if the Congo is to close its borders and stop trade with the rest of the world, development in the rest of the world would stop everywhere, because everywhere uses. Yeah, exactly. The Congo produces $1 billion of gold a year alone, just gold, right? Now, cobalt, coltan, wolframite, copper, tin, tungsten, every single aluminium, every single mineral, if you can think about it, it comes from the Congo. Now, in 1885 there was a conference called the Conference of Berlin, and after the Conference of Berlin, a man called King Leopold II, who was the king of Belgium, took Congo for his personal wealth, right? Once he took Congo for his personal wealth, what happened was that country, from the period of 1885 till 1908, that country lost its population by half. So there was 20 million people in the Congo. Now in 1908 there was only sorry, these bikers are wilding. Now in the Congo in 1908 there was only 10 million people. So they severed the population in half for the production of rubber, for the tire that had just been invented in Europe, and also for wild ivory, because it has a lot of forest elephants in the Congo. So once that happened, then the Belgian government bought Congo from King Leopold for 50 million francs, and then the Belgian government colonized it from 1908 till 1960. In 1960, a man called Patrice Lumumba was elected, democratically elected, and then he was taken out by the CIA. The CIA paid $100,000 to have him taken out, and the French and the Belgian soldiers took him out. Then after that, a dictator was installed, a man called Mobutu Sese Seke, and Mobutu basically plundered the country for about 30 years, but he did it maybe even better than King Leopold, because there was a more developed economy at the time for him to be able to do it. Then in 1994, the Rwandan genocide happened. So what happened was the Hutus were persecuting the Tutsis in Rwanda, and then after that happened, Paul Kagame took power in Rwanda. He was Tutsi. He came up to the US and he said, do I have your backing to go after the Hutus who caused a genocide on us? The US didn't say anything, but then they sent loads of weapons and loads of supplies to allow money to allow them to do it. And then there was the after the Rwandan genocide, that then followed into the Congo for about 10 years, and in that 10 years time 7 million people died. Now what you have is, you have essentially the Congo is a huge police state. The East doesn't talk to the West doesn't talk to Central properly. The East is where all the mines are, so the reason why that genocide was happening, when the Rwandans and the Burundians and the Ugandans coming in and murdering Congolese people, is because where they were living on top of mineral deposits. Then they opened up mines, which now the Belgians and the Israelis and everybody else owns. Exactly. And this is how we have mobile phones, and this is how we have all of these things. But don't let the media trick you into thinking that the Congo is the worst place on earth. It might be the poorest place on earth, but that's been caused. But it is also the most beautiful place on earth. Where I have an orphanage in the east of Congo, it used to be called the Seychelles of Africa. It's one of the most beautiful places you'll ever physically lay your eyes on, and it has all of the minerals on earth. Everything grows. The food is the best in the world. But what you need to do is not let the current government and the current, and yes, there's problems in Congo, but don't let that affect your travel to there, especially if you want to connect and help the brothers and sisters and build with the brothers and sisters there. Because one thing we have this idea of there's almost psychopathic idea of individualistic Western privilege, where we say, oh no, we can't go there, it's too dangerous. But what about the brothers and sisters that live there? It's not too dangerous for them, clearly, or it is, but why are you too coward to go there and see them? So just to summarize Congo, the most beautiful place on earth that I've been, and I've been to many places, the richest country on earth, on the richest continent on earth, and it needs a lot of work, but you know, there's work being done, so don't be scared, go there and establish yourself in the heart chakra of Africa and really take for yourself what you believe, you know, is your birthright. You're an indigenous person of the earth, so go travel.
Man, oh man. There you have it, family. I mean, I'm speechless. This brother right here is actually doing the work. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people talk about it, but the brother he's doing it. He doesn't talk a lot. He does a lot. So hopefully this is an inspiration for anybody out there who is looking for somebody who they could see as a role model of, you know, action. You know what I mean? Proaction, not reaction, but proaction. People that are doing without somebody telling them this is how to do it, or this is what to do, or this is, you know what I mean? So salute to you, my brother. Let them know once again where they can find you on social media.
It's at Chakabars, that's at CHAKABARS, and also if you go on iHeart Africa, that's IHEART Africa.org, that's the website.
Alright, there you have it. Brother Red Pillar, Patreon /Red Pillar. Love and light to the family. Peace.